wiped the sweat from his forehead and checked his navigation screen again. The route to station was supposed to be simple. Load cargo on Earth, fly 3 days through empty space, deliver supplies, and head home. He had done this run 40 times before. It paid enough to keep his old ship running and put food on his table. Nothing exciting ever happened out here. His ship was small and old. The cargo hauler had been built 30 years ago, and every system groaned when he pushed it too hard. The hull was patched in 5 places. The engines burned fuel inefficiently. But it was his, paid for with 10 years of savings and careful work. He called it the Wanderer, though most other pilots would call it junk. The alert sound made him sit up straight. His sensors had picked up something unusual. A ship was drifting near the radiation belt about 2 hours off his planned route. Frowned at the reading. The ship's signature marked it as a luxury vessel, expensive and well-made. Those ships did not break down in the middle of nowhere. They had backup systems and emergency protocols that made them nearly indestructible. He should ignore it. Company policy was clear. Stay en route, deliver on time, do not investigate distress signals unless command approved it first. Getting involved in other people's problems was a good way to lose money and maybe get hurt. Had learned to keep his head down and mind his own business. But something felt wrong. The ship was drifting closer to the radiation belt with each passing minute. If someone was alive in there, they would die when the belt's energy fried their systems completely. Thought about his younger sister, who always told him he was too soft-hearted for space work. She was probably right. He changed course. The Wanderer protested as he pushed the engines harder. The radiation belt glowed on his bands of deadly energy that twisted and pulsed. His ship's shielding could handle brief exposure, but not much more. He had maybe 30 minutes before the radiation would start damaging his systems. As he got closer, saw the damage. The luxury ship's hull was intact, but something had disabled it from the inside. Scorch marks around the airlock suggested an explosion or fire. His communication system picked up no signals. Either the crew was dead or their systems were completely offline. Suited up and grabbed his medical kit. Years ago, he had trained as a field medic before switching to cargo work. The skills stayed with him even though he rarely needed them now. He locked his ship to the disabled vessel and forced open the airlock. It took 3 tries before the mechanism responded. The inside of the ship was dark. Emergency lights flickered weakly, casting red shadows across elegant hallways. This was definitely a ship built for wealthy passengers. Real wood panels lined the walls. The floor was polished stone instead of metal. Had never seen anything this fancy up close. He found the bodies near the command deck. 4 crew members, all dead from what looked like neurotoxin exposure. Their skin had the blue-gray tint that came from breathing poisoned air. Checked each one anyway, hopping for survivors. Nothing. Then he heard a faint sound from the passenger quarters. A weak breath barely there. Ran down the corridor and burst through the door. A woman lay on the floor, her body convulsing slightly. She was not human. Her skin had a pale silver color that seemed to glow faintly. She was tall, maybe 7 feet, with long limbs and a delicate face. Her clothing was rich and ornate, covered in symbols he did not recognize. But he recognized the symptoms. Neurotoxin exposure, advanced stage. She had minutes left, maybe less. Dropped to his knees beside her and opened his medical kit. His hands moved automatically, following training he had practiced 1,000 times. He checked her breathing first, shallow and irregular. Her pulse was there but fatting fast. He had no idea what normal vital signs looked like for her species, but he understood dying when he saw it. The toxin had to be flushed from her system. Pulled out an emergency stimulant and injected it near her chest, hoping her anatomy was close enough to human that it would work. Then he grabbed the oxygen mask and pressed it to her face. His portable unit was designed for humans, but oxygen was oxygen. Maybe it would help. She stirred slightly. Her eyes opened halfway, revealing irises that shifted between purple and gold. She looked at him with confusion and fear. Her mouth moved, making sounds he could not understand. Kept working, mixing compounds from his kit into something that might counteract the poison. He had to move her. Staying on this ship was death. The radiation belt was getting closer, and whatever had released the toxin might still be active. But moving someone in her condition could kill her just as easily. Made the choice anyway. He lifted her carefully, shocked at how light she felt despite her height. Her head rolled against his shoulder as he carried her back through the corridors. She made a small sound, something between a whimper and a question. spoke to her quietly even though she could not understand him. "I've got you, you're going to be okay, just hang on." Getting her through the airlock and into his ship took forever. The Wanderer's medical bay was just a small room with basic equipment, nothing like what she needed. Cleared off his own bunk and laid her down there instead. The space was cramped and smelled like engine grease, but it was all he had. He set up monitoring equipment and started an IV drip. The medication he gave her was designed for humans, but he adjusted the dosage based on her size and hoped for the best. Her breathing improved slightly. That was a good sign. Maybe. Sealed his ship and disengaged from the luxury vessel. He punched in coordinates for the nearest outpost. He had heard of the Empire but never dealt with them directly. They were supposed to be proud and isolationist. They had little contact with humans and seemed to prefer it that way. The Wanderer's engines screamed as he pushed them past safety limits. The radiation belt was too close now. Energy warnings flashed across every screen, ignored them all. He had to get clear before the radiation damaged his ship beyond repair. Something exploded in the engine room. Alarms blared, rerouted power, and kept flying. The ship shuddered violently but held together. They cleared the belt's edge with seconds to spare. Then came the hard part. Sent out distress signals on every frequency he could access. He explained the situation as clearly as possible. Dying passenger, need immediate medical help, approaching space without authorization. He repeated the message every 5 minutes and hoped someone was listening. Hours passed, stayed awake through sheer willpower and cheap coffee. He checked on the woman every few minutes. Her condition had stabilized but not improved. She was still unconscious, still barely breathing. He wiped her forehead with a cool cloth and adjusted her position to keep her comfortable. She was beautiful in a way that seemed unreal. Her features were sharp and elegant, like someone had carved her from moonlight. Her silver hair spread across his pillow like liquid metal. Wondered who she was, what she had been doing on that ship, why someone had tried to kill her. Finally, a response came through. A deep voice speaking accented English ordered him to hold position. A patrol fleet was on its way. Acknowledged and tried to make himself presentable. He was covered in sweat and grease. His ship was a disaster, but at least the woman was still alive. When the ships arrived, they surrounded the Wanderer like predators circling prey. Their vessels were sleek and powerful, making his cargo hauler look even more pathetic by comparison. Armed soldiers boarded his ship, their tall forms imposing in full combat gear. Raised his hands and tried to explain. The soldiers pushed past him and went straight to the woman. One of them gasped and spoke rapidly in their language, caught the word that his translator rendered as princess. A medical team rushed in with equipment far beyond anything had seen. They scanned the woman with devices that hummed and glowed. One of the medics looked at with something like surprise in her large eyes. She said something that the translator converted to "You saved her life." Felt the exhaustion hit him all at once. His legs went weak. He sat down hard on the floor and watched the medics work. They moved the princess to their ship on a floating stretcher. She looked so small surrounded by their advanced technology. One of the soldiers approached him. The translator on Scholar made the harsh sounds into words. "You will come with us. The Empress will want to speak with you." Nodded, he was too tired to argue. A medic pressed something to his neck, felt a sharp sting, then woke to voices speaking in a language he did not understand. His head pounded with a pain that made thinking difficult. Everything felt wrong. The air was too cold and too thin. The surface beneath him was hard and uncomfortable. Even the gravity felt different, lighter than what his body expected. He opened his eyes slowly. The room above him was enormous. Crystal walls rose high into shadows that the soft blue lighting could not reach. Patterns of light moved across the ceiling like slow waves on water. The architecture was beautiful but alien, designed for beings much taller than humans. Tried to sit up. His arms shook with the effort. How long had he been unconscious? His mouth was dry and his muscles felt weak. He managed to push himself upright and immediately regretted it. The room spun sickeningly. Figures surrounded him, tall, silver-skinned beings with glowing patterns on their foreheads and hands. They wore clothing that looked like it cost more than his ship. Their faces were hard to read, but their body language was clear enough. They were not happy to see him awake. One of them stepped forward and spoke. The words were melodic and flowing, nothing like human speech. Reached for his translator collar and found it missing. He opened his mouth to ask for it back, but one of the beings made a sharp gesture that clearly meant silence. A device was brought forward and placed near's head. It hummed for a moment, then the voices around him became understandable. The translation was choppy and imperfect, but it worked. "The human is awake," one voice said. "Keep weapons ready. We do not know what it might do," another replied. "Contamination protocols are in place. If it tries anything, seal the chamber." Raised his hands slowly, trying to show he was not a threat. "Where am I? What happened to the woman I rescued?" The beings exchanged glances. One of them, wearing armor that marked him as some kind of military officer, stepped closer. His face was stern and his eyes were cold. The translator rendered his words with a mechanical tone. "You are in the royal palace of the Empire. You stand accused of conspiracy to assassinate Princess, daughter of Empress. How do you plead?" The words hit like a physical blow. "What? No, I saved her. I found her dying on that ship." "A convenient story," the officer said. His name appeared on translator display as commander. "You were found alone with the princess in a disabled ship. You admit to touching her, handling her, exposing her to your primitive medical treatments. You damaged your own ship in what you claim was a rescue. All of this could just as easily be the actions of an assassin covering his tracks." Felt panic rising in his chest. "That's insane. Why would I risk my life to kill someone I've never met? I was just passing through. I saw a ship in trouble and I helped." "Humans do not simply help," said. "Your species is known for violence and deception. You come from a harsh world and you carry that brutality in your nature. The galaxy knows what humanity is capable of." Another voice spoke up from the crowd. "He touched royalty. That alone demands execution under our oldest laws. The contamination cannot be forgiven." He breathed the same air as the princess in that filthy ship of his. He put his alien hands on her sacred body. The voices overlapped, building into an angry chorus. Understood only fragments through the struggling translator, but the meaning was clear. They wanted him dead. "I was trying to save her life," said desperately. "She was dying. What was I supposed to do, just leave her?" "Yes," said simply. "That is exactly what you should have done. The princess's fate was not yours to decide. By interfering, you have created a situation that has no precedent in our law." Looked around the chamber, trying to find a friendly face. There were dozens of watching him. Some looked angry, others looked curious. A few looked disgusted, as if his mere presence offended them. None looked sympathetic. "I want to speak to someone from the human embassy," said. "I have rights." "There is no human embassy here," replied. "Your species and ours have minimal contact. There are treaties, yes, but no permanent diplomatic presence. You are alone, human. No one is coming to help you." The words settled over like ice water. He was in an alien palace, surrounded by people who thought he was an assassin, with no way to contact anyone who might help him. His ship was probably impounded. His cargo was definitely lost. And if these people decided to execute him, no one would even know what happened. "At least tell me if she's alive," said quietly. "Tell me the princess survived." "Princess lives," a new voice said. "No thanks to your interference." An older stepped forward from the crowd. She wore robes that shimmered with embedded lights. Her face was lined with age, but her eyes were sharp. The weight of authority hung around her like a cloak. Even without introduction, knew this was someone important. "The princess lives because her body is strong and our medicine is advanced," the woman continued. "Your primitive treatments were as likely to kill her as save her. You are fortunate that she survived despite your meddling." "With respect," said, knowing he was probably making things worse. "Your advanced medicine was not there when she needed it. I was. And those primitive treatments kept her alive long enough for your people to take over." Silence fell over the chamber. They stared at him with expressions that might have been shock or outrage. Apparently, humans were not supposed to talk back. Moved toward with clear threat in his posture. "You dare speak to High Chancellor with such disrespect? Your ignorance will not protect you from consequences." "I don't understand your politics or your laws," said, his frustration finally breaking through his fear. "I'm just a cargo pilot. I saw someone dying and I helped. That's what humans do. We help people, even strangers, even aliens we've never met before. I'm sorry if that violates your protocols, but I won't apologize for saving a life." "Such arrogance," someone muttered from the crowd. "Typical human barbarism. He understands nothing of honor or propriety." Felt his anger rising to match his fear. He had done the right thing. He had saved someone's life at great personal risk. And now he was being treated like a criminal because he had not followed rules he did not know existed. The unfairness of it burned in his chest. "Take him to the detention cells," ordered. "We will decide his fate after the council convenes." Two guards moved toward. They were massive, easily 8 feet tall, and heavily armed. New resistance was pointless. He stood up slowly, his legs still unsteady and prepared to be taken away. "Stop!" The single word cut through the chamber like a blade. Everyone froze, turned toward the source of the voice, and felt his breath catch. The princess walked into the chamber. She moved slowly, clearly still weak from her ordeal, but she carried herself with unmistakable authority. Her silver skin seemed to glow brighter than the others. Her eyes, those strange shifting eyes, were fixed on him. She wore simple robes instead of the ornate clothing of the other nobles, but somehow she commanded more attention than anyone else in the room. "Princess," said, bowing deeply, "you should be resting. Your health is still fragile." "My health is stable thanks to the skill of our medical teams," said. Her voice was weak but firm. "And thanks to the actions of this human who stands accused before you." She walked forward until she stood between and the guards. Up close, she was even more striking. Her features were delicate but strong. Her hair fell around her shoulders like a waterfall of liquid silver. She looked at for a long moment, studying him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "Do you know who I am?" she asked him directly. "They said you're princess," replied, "daughter of the empress. And yet you risked your life for me without knowing this. You damaged your ship beyond easy repair. You used your own supplies to save me. Why?" Struggled to find words that would make sense to her. "Because you were dying, because I could help, because leaving someone to die when you can save them is wrong." Turned to face the assembled nobles and officials. Though she swayed slightly with exhaustion, her voice carried clearly through the chamber. "I have reviewed the medical records. I have examined the data from my ship's final moments. This human speaks truth. He found my vessel disabled by sabotage. He entered a dangerous radiation field to investigate. He provided emergency medical care that sustained my life until our people could retrieve me. He did all of this knowing nothing about who I was or what reward he might receive." "Princess," said carefully, "that does not change the fact that he violated sacred law. He touched you. He saved my life," interrupted, her voice sharp. "The law against touching royalty exists to prevent exploitation and harm. This human did neither. He acted with honor that transcends species, and I will not see him punished for it." She turned back to, "I am told that you asked if I survived, that even facing execution, your first concern was for is this true?" Nodded, not trusting his voice. "Then hear me now, all of you," said, addressing the entire chamber. "I place under my personal protection. Any who would harm him must go through me first. The Empire owes this human a life debt. I will see it honored." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Guards and nobles spoke over each other in dismay and disbelief. Chancellor looked furious, appeared torn between duty and outrage. Through it all, stood firm, her body positioned between and everyone who might threaten him. She met her people's anger with calm determination. Stared at her back, stunned and grateful and more confused than ever. He had saved her life, expecting nothing. The chamber remained in chaos for several minutes. Nobles argued with each other in rapid that translator could barely keep up with. Guards stood uncertain, looking between their princess and their commander. The weight of tradition fought against the undeniable fact that had saved royal life. Chancellor stepped forward again, her voice cutting through the noise. "Princess, with all respect, you cannot simply ignore of law. The touch prohibition exists for important reasons. If we allow this human to walk free despite violating it, what message does that send? That our laws mean nothing when convenient." Turned to face the Chancellor. Despite her obvious exhaustion, she stood tall and met the older woman's gaze without flinching. "Our laws exist to protect, not to punish those who save lives. Would you have preferred I die untouched rather than live contaminated?" "That is not the choice before us," said. "The choice is whether we uphold our civilization's foundations or abandon them for sentiment. This human knew nothing of our customs, true, but ignorance has never been an excuse." Watched the exchange with growing concern. He understood he was watching something bigger than just his own fate being decided. They were debating their entire relationship with humanity, using him as the test case. It was not a comfortable position. A younger noble spoke up, her voice carrying across the chamber. The princess makes a valid point. The law was written to prevent harm. In what way has this human caused harm? He caused no injury. He sought no advantage. By every measure, his actions were honorable. By every human measure, perhaps, another voice countered. But we are not human. Our standards are different, higher. We cannot judge his actions by his species' primitive morality. Felt his jaw tighten at the word primitive. He had heard it 3 times now since waking up. These people seemed convinced that humans were somehow less developed, less civilized. It stung more than he expected. Raised his hand for silence. The chamber gradually quieted. There is another matter we must address. The princess mentioned sabotage. An assassination attempt occurred. This human was found at the scene. We cannot simply ignore the coincidence. It was not coincidence, said. It was fortune. My security team failed to protect me. My own escort fleet harbored a traitor. Meanwhile, a stranger with no knowledge of politics risked everything to save me. If wanted me dead, he could have simply left me to die. Instead, he nearly destroyed his ship getting me to safety. She paused, then added quietly, My own people failed me. This human did not. The statement hung in the air like an accusation. Several nobles looked uncomfortable. Its expression remained unreadable. I propose a compromise, continued. Allow me to speak with privately. Let me learn why he acted as he did. Then we can reconvene and make a proper judgment with full information. Absolutely not, said immediately. Private conversation with an accused criminal, princess, your safety. Will be protected by guards and observers, interrupted. I am not asking permission, Chancellor. I am invoking my right as the victim and the one owed testimony, unless you wish to deny me that right as well. Looked ready to argue further, but a new voice stopped her. From a doorway at the far end of the chamber, a figure emerged that made everyone immediately bow or kneel. Empress entered the room with the measured grace of absolute power. She was taller than even the other, and her skin glowed with a light that seemed to come from within. She wore robes of deep blue that flowed around her like water. Her face showed the same features as her daughter, refined by age and authority into something both beautiful and intimidating. Started to bow but was not sure how. He settled for lowering his head respectfully. The Empress surveyed the chamber slowly, taking in the scene. Her gaze passed over without expression, then moved to her daughter. When she spoke, her voice was surprisingly gentle. You should be in the healing chambers. I will return there shortly, Mother replied. But first this matter must be settled. This human saved my life. I cannot rest knowing he might be executed for it. Studied her daughter for a long moment. Then she looked at properly, her eyes seeming to see through him. He forced himself to meet her gaze despite every instinct screaming at him to look away. You are, the Empress said. It was not a question. Yes, Your Majesty, replied, hoping he was using the right form of address. My daughter believes you acted with honor. Others believe you violated sacred law. Still others suspect you of conspiracy. What do you believe? The question caught off guard. I believe I saw someone dying and I helped, that's all. I didn't think about laws or politics or consequences. I just did what anyone should do. But not what anyone would do, observed. Tell me, what does your species gain from individual acts of mercy? In society, we have protocols for assistance, organizations dedicated to rescue, systems designed to help those in need, but these are collective efforts carefully planned. What you did was chaotic, spontaneous, inefficient, yet you did it anyway. Why? Struggled to explain something he had never really questioned before. Because waiting for the system to help means sometimes people die while you're following the rules. Because sometimes there is no one else. Because if everyone just waits for someone else to help, no one ever does. So humans act on instinct rather than logic. Sometimes, admitted. When it matters, when a life is at stake, we don't always stop to calculate the best approach. We just act. How primitive, someone muttered from the crowd. Raised a hand and the voice fell silent. Primitive. That word has been used several times in this chamber, yet I wonder if we use it correctly. A primitive being would save only its own kind, would protect only its tribe. This human saved someone of another species, someone he had never met, someone from an empire he knew little about. Is that truly primitive, or is it something else? No one seemed willing to answer that question. The Empress turned too. Commander, what have your investigators learned about the sabotage? Straightened. The neurotoxin was released from inside the princess's ship. Someone in the crew or security detail was responsible. We have not yet identified who. The timing of his arrival was either extreme coincidence or he was meant to be a witness or scapegoat. Or he was simply passing through, added, as his flight logs confirm. Nodded slowly. I will allow the private conversation. Princess may speak with under supervision. Guards will be present. Cultural liaison will attend to ensure proper understanding between species. After this conversation, we will reconvene and I will make my judgment. She looked directly at. Understand, human, that my daughter's protection extends only so far. If you give me reason to doubt your intentions, not even her advocacy will save you. I understand, said. I have nothing to hide. Everyone has something to hide, replied. We shall see if your secrets are dangerous or merely embarrassing. She turned and left the chamber as regally as she had entered. The assembled nobles and officials began filing out after her. Only a few guards remained, along with a slender woman who approached with a cautious expression. I am, she said. Her was clearer than the others, easier for the translator to handle. I am a cultural liaison. My job is to help explain things that may not translate well between our species. I will observe your conversation with the princess. Thank you, said. He meant it. Having someone who understood both cultures might be the only thing that kept him from accidentally insulting someone else. Gestured toward a smaller doorway. Come, we will speak in a more comfortable setting. Followed her through corridors that took his breath away. The palace was stunning. Crystal walls refracted light into rainbows. Gardens grew inside chambers open to the sky. Water flowed in patterns that seemed to defy gravity. It was beautiful but cold, designed for beings very different from humans. They entered a smaller room that was still larger than its entire ship. Comfortable furniture was arranged around a central space. Large windows looked out over a city of spires and lights. Sat carefully, her movements showing her remaining weakness. She gestured for to sit across from her. 4 guards positioned themselves at the corners of the room. Sat to the side, her attention focused on both of them. For a moment neither spoke, studied with those strange color-shifting eyes. He looked back, trying not to stare but unable to help himself. She was alien in ways that were both obvious and subtle. The way she held her head, the grace of her movements, the faint glow to her skin. Thank you, said finally. I never properly thanked you for my life. You don't need to thank me, replied. I did what anyone would do. No, said firmly. You did what you would do. Most beings would not have stopped. My own people have protocols that would have prevented them from investigating without proper authorization. You broke your rules to save someone you did not know. Your people keep calling it primitive, said, unable to keep the bitterness from his voice. Acting on instinct instead of logic. Spoke up gently. In culture, calling something primitive is not always an insult. It can mean pure, essential, unrefined by complex social requirements. Some here fear that quality in humans, others are curious about it. Nodded, I am curious. Tell me about yourself. Where do you come from? What is your life like? So told her. He explained about Earth, about growing up in a small town where everyone knew each other, about training as a medic and serving in disaster response teams, about leaving that life for cargo hauling because the work paid better and demanded less emotionally. He told her about his old ship, about the routes he flew, about the simple life he had built for himself. Listened intently, asking questions when she did not understand. What was a small town? How did disaster response work? Why would someone choose solitary cargo work over community service? In turn, she told him about the Empire, about a civilization millions of years old built on logic and hierarchy, about a culture that valued order and protocol above spontaneity, about her life as a princess, sheltered and constrained by tradition. I have been trying to open our empire to more contact with other species, explained. We have isolated ourselves for too long. We have much to learn from others and perhaps much to teach, but many of our people resist. They believe contact with others will contaminate our culture. And then I showed up and touched you without permission, said, understanding better now. I became proof that they were right to be afraid. Or proof that they were wrong, countered. You showed that honor and compassion exist beyond our species, that someone from a completely different culture would still value life enough to risk their own. She leaned forward slightly. Tell me truly, are you involved in the plot to kill me? Did someone send you? Met her eyes directly. No, I swear on everything I value I had nothing to do with that. I was just flying my route when I saw your ship in trouble. That's all. Studied his face for a long moment, then she nodded. I believe you. The question is whether I can convince others. Your mother called this a test, said. Not just of me, of human relations. She's trying to figure out if humans can be trusted. Can you? Asked. Thought about that? Some of us, just like some of your people can be trusted and others planted a bomb on your ship. We're not that different. Both our species have good people and bad people. Maybe the real question is whether we can learn to tell the difference. Made a small sound, something between surprise and approval. Smiled the first real smile had seen from her. It transformed her face from merely beautiful to something radiant. I think you may have just said something very wise, said, and very dangerous. Before could ask what she meant, alarms began blaring throughout the palace. The guards immediately moved to surround, weapons drawn, rushed to a communication panel on the wall. What's happening? Demanded. His face went pale. An attack. Someone is assaulting the palace. The Empress is calling for full lockdown. Stood quickly despite her weakness. The conspirators, they know I survived and they are making another attempt. Felt his old training kicking in. His pulse steadied even as fear tried to take hold. We need to get you somewhere safe. The panic room is 3 levels down, one of the guards said. Then let's move, said, now. They rushed from the room as explosions echoed through the palace. Found himself running beside the princess, his simple act of mercy having pulled him into a battle he never wanted. But as they ran through the crystal corridors with danger closing in, realized he would make the same. The attack ended as quickly as it began. By the time and reached the secured panic room, palace security had already neutralized the threat. 6 intruders had breached the outer defenses using stolen codes. All 6 were now dead or captured. But the message was clear. Someone wanted dead badly enough to attack the royal palace itself. Sat on a bench in the panic room, his heart still racing from the sprint through the corridors. Stood nearby, speaking quietly with her guards. Despite having just survived another assassination attempt, she appeared calm. Wondered if this was normal for her or if she was just very good at hiding fear. Approached him with a container of water. Drink, you look pale. Accepted it gratefully. The water tasted strange but felt good going down his dry throat. Does this happen often? Attacks on the palace? Never, said quietly. The palace has not been successfully breached in 3,000 years. This is unprecedented. Someone very powerful is behind this. Someone who really wants the princess dead, observed. Yes, and now they know you are here. They know you saved her the first time. That makes you a target too. Had not thought about that. He had been so focused on the immediate danger that he had not considered the longer implications. He was now connected to in the minds of whoever wanted her dead. That meant he was a problem they would want to solve. Great, muttered. I just wanted to deliver cargo and go home. I am sorry, said, coming to sit beside him. You saved my life, and in return I have brought danger to yours. This is not the debt payment you deserved. It's not your fault, replied. You didn't ask to be assassinated. No, but I chose to protect you when others wanted you imprisoned or executed. I chose to keep you here rather than allow you to leave. I have made you part of this situation. Looked at her thoughtfully. Could I leave? If I asked right now, would you let me go? Hesitated. Honestly, I do not know. My mother would have to decide. And with the attack so recent, she may believe keeping you here is safest for everyone. You know things now, about our security failures, about the conspiracy. Simply letting you fly away might not be an option. So I'm a prisoner. You are a protected witness, corrected gently. There is a difference. From where I'm sitting, the difference seems pretty small, said. But he did not sound angry, just tired and overwhelmed. 2 hours later, the Royal Council reconvened in a different chamber, this one deep underground with security even than before. Stood before them again, but this time the mood was different. The attack had changed things. Fear and anger filled the room instead of just disapproval. Empress sat on a raised platform, her expression grave. Beside her stood, and noticed the commander now wore the signs of recent combat. A burn marked his left arm, and his armor was scorched in places. The situation has escalated, began without preamble. The conspirators have shown their hand. They are willing to attack the palace itself to complete their goal. This is no longer just about my daughter's life. This threatens the stability of the empire. She looked directly at. You have been at the center of these events, first by saving Princess and now by being present during the palace attack. Some on this council believe you are part of the conspiracy. Others believe you are merely unlucky. My daughter believes you are innocent. What physical evidence do we have? Stepped forward. We have examined ship thoroughly. We found no weapons beyond a standard emergency kit. No communications with any conspirators. His flight logs match his story. He was indeed making a routine cargo run when he diverted to investigate the princess's ship. We also questioned the captured attackers, continued. Under interrogation, one revealed its presence here was unexpected. The conspirators did not plan for him to save the princess. They are now scrambling to adjust their plans. So he is innocent of conspiracy, Chancellor said. That still does not resolve the matter of law violation. He still touched the princess. He still contaminated royal presence with his alien nature. I grow tired of this argument, said sharply. She stood from her seat beside her mother, ignoring the protests. How many times must we debate the same point? He saved my life. The law exists to protect royalty, not to punish those who protect us. If we cannot see the difference, then our civilization is not as advanced as we claim. Several nobles began speaking at once. The chamber erupted in debate again, watched it all with a strange sense of detachment. These beings were arguing about laws thousands of years old, about traditions he could barely understand, and somehow he was at the center of it all. A young noble stood up, silencing the others with a gesture. Recognized him from earlier, one of the few who had spoken in his defense. I am Lord, he announced. I wish to propose something radical. We are treating this as a question of law, but perhaps it should be a question of precedent. Did something we have never encountered before. He saved royal life at personal cost, with no expectation of reward and without knowledge of our customs. Perhaps instead of punishing him, we should honor him. Honor a human, someone scoffed, for violating our most sacred traditions. For showing us that honor exists beyond our traditions, countered. For proving that compassion is not unique to the princess has been advocating for greater contact with other species. This human's actions support her position. He is proof that we can find allies among the stars if we are willing to look past our prejudices. Or he is proof that other species do not respect our ways, argued. What happens when more humans come here, touching our people without permission, ignoring our protocols? Do we excuse it all because this one happened to save a life? We teach them, said simply. As we would teach anyone, did not know our laws, now he does. He will not make the same mistake twice. Neither will other humans if we establish proper diplomatic relations and cultural exchange. Raised her hand and silence fell instantly. Your full report on the conspiracy, what have you learned? The commander straightened. The sabotage of the princess's ship was ordered by Lord, a high-ranking noble with extensive connections to military and trade networks. He has been working with a faction that opposes any expansion of contact with other species. They see it as contamination of purity. Believes that opening our borders will weaken the empire. He has been funding isolationist movements, and we now know, actively working to eliminate anyone who threatens his vision. The princess was his primary target because of her diplomatic initiatives. Where is Lord now? Asked coldly. Missing, he fled before we could arrest him. We believe he has supporters who are hiding him. The palace attack was a desperate attempt by his followers to complete the assassination before we could expose the full conspiracy. Stood, and everyone in the chamber immediately bowed or knelt. Followed a moment later, not sure of the protocol but not wanting to be disrespectful. I have heard enough, the Empress declared. The question before us is not complicated, saved my daughter's life. He violated our touch law out of ignorance and necessity, not malice. He has been caught up in a conspiracy that has nothing to do with him. These are the facts. She paused, letting her words sink in. The law exists to serve the people, not the other way around. When a law prevents us from honoring those who protect us, then the law must bend or we must change it. I will not punish mercy. I will not execute compassion. I formally absolve you of any crime. The life debt my daughter owes you is acknowledged by the throne. You are free of all charges. Relief flooded through so powerfully he felt dizzy. Around the chamber, reactions were mixed. Some nobles looked pleased. Others looked angry or disapproving. But no one dared argue with the Empress's direct judgment. However, continued, and relief faltered. You cannot simply leave. Lord and his allies now know you exist. They know you saved. They will see you as a symbol of everything they oppose. If you return to human space, they will find ways to kill you. You are not safe anywhere we cannot protect you. So I'm still a prisoner, said quietly. You are a guest under protection, corrected. There is a significant difference. You may move freely within the palace. You may communicate with your people. You may even work if you wish. But you cannot leave until we have eliminated the conspiracy completely, for your own safety. Wanted to argue, but he understood the logic. He was a target now, whether he liked it or not. At least here he had guards and security. Out in space, he would be alone and vulnerable. How long, he asked. As long as it takes, said. We are hunting and his network. It could be days, it could be months. Months closed his eyes briefly, trying to process that. His ship was ruined. His cargo was lost. His business would fail if he could not work. Everything he had built was falling apart because he had stopped to help someone. I will ensure you are compensated, said, as if reading his thoughts. Your ship will be repaired beyond its original condition. Your lost cargo will be paid for. You will not suffer financially for your good deed. And added, standing again, I believe the council should formally recognize actions. Let it be recorded that he saved royal life at great personal cost. Let other species know that the Empire honors those who honor us, regardless of their origin. Murmurs of agreement rippled through some of the nobles. Others remained silent but did not object. Nodded slowly. Let it be so, is declared a friend of the Empire. His actions will be recorded in our histories, and when he is finally able to leave, he will do so with our gratitude and our respect. She looked at directly. You did not ask for this. You wanted only to help someone in need. That simple act has changed the course of our empire's history. We are beginning to see that isolation is not strength, that honor exists beyond our borders. You have taught us this, whether you meant to or not. Did not know what to say. He had never wanted to be important or historical. He had just wanted to do the right thing. But apparently, the right thing had consequences he could never have predicted. Thank you, Your Majesty, he managed. Do not thank me yet, said with something that might have been humor. You will be living in the palace with my daughter as your primary advocate. You will attend functions, meet dignitaries, answer endless questions about human culture. You may come to see this as a punishment after all. Some of the nobles actually laughed at that. The tension in the chamber eased slightly. Approached as the council began to disperse. I know this is not what you wanted, but I promise I will make it bearable, and I will work tirelessly to end this conspiracy so you can return to your life. It's not your fault, said. I made my choice when I decided to investigate that ship. Everything after that is just consequences. Still, said softly, I wish the consequences were better for you. You deserve celebration, not confinement. Looked at her, at this alien princess who had risked her political capital to protect him, who had stood against her own people to honor his actions. Maybe confinement in a palace with someone like her would not be the worst thing that could happen. Let's just focus on staying alive, said. Everything else we can figure out later. Smiled at that. Agreed, staying alive is an excellent first priority. As they left the chamber together, surrounded by guards, reflected on how much his life had changed in just a few days. He had gone from anonymous cargo pilot to protected witness to friend of an empire, all because he could not ignore someone dying. He wondered what his sister would say when he finally got to tell her this story. She had always said his soft heart would get him in trouble someday. She had been right, but somehow could not bring himself to regret it. Not when the alternative was leaving to die. Not when doing the right thing had cost 3 weeks passed in the palace and slowly adjusted to his new reality. The days fell into a strange routine. Mornings were spent in briefings where and his team updated him on the investigation. Afternoons belonged to who had taken it upon herself to teach him about culture and history. Evenings were his own, though guards followed him wherever he went. His quarters were more luxurious than anywhere he had ever lived. The room was huge, with real windows overlooking the city. The bed was too large and too soft, designed for proportions, but he had gotten used to it. Someone brought him meals 3 times a day, food carefully prepared to be safe for human consumption. It should have felt like paradise. Instead, it felt like a gilded cage. Stood at his window one morning, watching shuttles move between the palace spires. His ship, the Wanderer, was somewhere in the palace maintenance docks being rebuilt. He had been allowed to visit it once. The engineers had been both horrified and fascinated by its primitive construction. They were essentially building him a new ship using the old one as a template. It would fly better, last longer, and be worth 10 times what the original was. He should have been grateful. Instead, he missed his old junk heap and the freedom it represented. A chime at his door announced a visitor, called permission to enter, knowing it would be. She came every morning now, checking on him before her official duties began. She entered wearing simpler robes than usual, her silver hair pulled back in a practical style. "Good morning, you look troubled." "Just thinking," said. "Any news on the conspiracy?" Some admitted, coming to stand beside him at the window. "His team has tracked several of safe houses. They are closing in. It is only a matter of time now." "You've been saying that for 2 weeks. And it remains true. These things take time. I know you are restless." "I'm going crazy," said honestly. "I appreciate everything you've done for me, the protection, the compensation, all of it, but I'm a pilot. I need to fly. Being stuck on the ground, even in a palace, is killing me." Was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Come with me, I want to show you something." She led him through the palace corridors, taking routes he had not traveled before. They went up instead of down, climbing stairs and using lifts until they reached the highest levels. Finally, they emerged onto an open platform at the very top of the central spire. The view took breath away. The city spread out below them in every direction, a landscape of crystal towers and flowing gardens. Above them, the sky showed stars even in daylight, visible through the thin upper atmosphere. Shuttles and ships moved like birds against the vast backdrop of space. "This is where I come when I feel trapped," said. "Being royal means constant observation, constant duty. There is very little freedom in my life, but up here I can at least see the sky and remember that a larger universe exists." Understood what she was offering him, a moment of shared understanding, a reminder that they were not so different despite coming from different worlds. "Thank you," he said simply. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the ships fly. After a while, spoke again. "Tell me about your family. You have mentioned a sister." "Yeah," said, smiling at the thought of her. "She's younger than me by 3 years, works as a teacher on Earth. She thinks I'm crazy for spending so much time in space, but she supports it anyway. We message when we can, though the delay makes real conversation difficult." "You miss her?" "More than I expected to. I've been away from Earth for months before, but this is different. This time I can't even tell her where I am or what happened. The messages I'm allowed to send are so heavily restricted that they barely say anything." "I am sorry," said. "The security requirements are necessary, but I know they are difficult." "It's fine," said, though his tone suggested it was not fine. "She probably thinks I'm just on an extended run. When I finally get home and tell her what really happened, she's never going to believe me." "You could bring her here someday," suggested. "When things are safer, I would like to meet the sister who shaped such a good person." Looked at her in surprise. "You do that?" "Why not? If we are building bridges between our species, why not start with the people who matter most to us?" The idea appealed to more than he wanted to admit. Would lose her mind seeing an alien palace, and she would probably interrogate with 1,000 questions. The thought made him smile. Their conversation was interrupted by arriving on the platform, moving quickly. "Princess, Commander needs both of you. They have found something important." They hurried down to the security center, a room deep in the palace filled with screens and equipment that barely understood. Stood at the center, directing his team with efficient gestures. He turned as they entered. "We have located Lord," announced. "He is hiding in a compound on the outer edge of the capital. We are preparing to raid it within the hour." Finally breathed. "There is more," continued. "We have been analyzing the conspiracy's communications. They have been working with certain human elements, smugglers and criminals who profit from keeping our species apart. The connection suggests that opposition to cooperation is not just a problem." Felt his stomach sink. "You're saying humans are involved in trying to kill the princess?" "Some humans," clarified. "Not your government or your military. Criminal organizations that benefit from the current state of limited contact between our peoples. They have been providing with intelligence and resources." "This changes things," said. "If we can prove that human criminals worked with conspirators, it strengthens the case for official cooperation." We could present it to both our governments as evidence that organized crime crosses species lines and requires joint effort to combat. Saw the political calculation in her eyes. She was already thinking about how to use this tragedy to advance her diplomatic goals. Part of him admired that. Part of him found it cold. The raid happens in 45 minutes, said. If successful, this ends tonight. I want to be there, said immediately. Absolutely not, replied. You are the target. Your presence would be a massive security risk. It is my life they tried to take, my right to see justice done. Your mother would never allow it. Looked ready to argue further, but spoke up. He's right, you being there doesn't help anything, but I could go. Everyone turned to look at him. Hear me out, said. I'm not royalty, I'm not even officially important, but I'm connected to this. I saved the princess. I became a target because of it. If human criminals are involved, maybe having a human witness to their capture sends a message. Shows that humans don't protect their criminals when they work against cooperation. Considered this, it would be dangerous. People will be armed and desperate. I've been in dangerous situations before, said. I was a field medic, remember? I know how to stay out of the way and still be useful. Why would you volunteer for this? Asked, studying him intently. Thought about that? Because sitting around waiting for other people to solve my problems is driving me insane. Because I want to be part of ending this, not just a victim of it. And because maybe you're right. Maybe me being there means something symbolically. And exchanged glances. Some silent communication passed between them. Finally nodded. You stay behind our combat teams. You wear full protective gear. You follow every order without question. Agreed. Agreed, said. 40 minutes later, sat in an assault shuttle surrounded by soldiers. The armor they had given him fit awkwardly, designed for different proportions. But it would stop most weapons, and that was what mattered. He checked the medical kit they had provided. At least he could help if anyone got hurt. The shuttle flew low over the city, heading toward the industrial outskirts. Sat across from his expression calm despite the coming danger. The commander had been a soldier for decades. This was routine for him. Nervous, asked. Terrified, admitted. But also ready, does that make sense? Perfect sense. Fear keeps you alert, readiness keeps you alive. Paused, then added, you have proven yourself worthy of the princess's trust. Not many humans would volunteer for this. Not many humans would be in this situation in the first place, pointed out. True, you have had an unusual few weeks. The shuttle began its descent. His heart pounded harder. Through the windows, he could see other shuttles converging on the same location. Teams were moving with precision and overwhelming force. The compound came into view. It looked like a warehouse complex, old and industrial. Lights blazed from inside several buildings. Clearly, and his people were not trying to hide anymore. They knew they were caught. The shuttles landed simultaneously, disgorging soldiers who moved with practiced efficiency. Followed his assigned team, staying behind them as ordered. The air smelled of chemicals and burnt metal. Warning shots were fired. Someone inside the compound returned fire. Then chaos erupted. Explosions, weapons fire, shouting in both and broken English, pressed himself against a wall as soldiers moved past him. He watched them breach the main building, saw flashes of combat through the windows. It was over in minutes. The defenders surrendered or were captured. People secured the compound with minimal casualties, saw injured soldiers being helped out and immediately moved to assist. A medic directed him to a soldier with a burn injury, worked quickly, his training overriding his fear. The burn was serious but treatable. He stabilized the soldier and moved to the next casualty. By the time the fighting truly ended, had treated 3 soldiers and helped evacuate 2 others. He barely noticed when approached him. Lord is captured, the commander said. Along with 15 of his followers, we also found 3 humans among his supporters. They are being held separately. Can I see them? Asked. The humans, I mean. Considered, then nodded. He led to a secured area where 3 humans sat in restraints. They looked up as and entered. One of them, a woman with scars on her face and hard eyes, laughed bitterly. They brought a human to witness our shame? That's cold. I'm the one who saved Princess. Recognition flickered in their eyes. The woman's laughter died. The cargo pilot, we heard about you, was furious when you got involved, ruined everything. Good, said simply. What you did was wrong. trying to kill someone, working with aliens to undermine your own species' relations with others. You're criminals and traitors. We're businessmen, one of the men said. The current situation is profitable, open cooperation between humans, and would ruin us. So you tried to kill someone to protect your profits, said, disgust clear in his voice. You make me ashamed to be human. Spare me the moral superiority, the woman snapped. You think you're special because you saved one alien princess? You're just a fool who got lucky. Stared at her. I'd rather be a fool who saves lives than a criminal who ends them. And when you're prosecuted, I'll be there to testify about what you did. Both human and authorities will know you worked together to commit murder. You've proven that criminals of both species can cooperate. Maybe that will finally convince our governments that honest people should do the same. He turned and walked out, not waiting for their response, followed him. That was well said, the commander noted. I meant every word, replied. They returned to the palace as dawn broke over the city, was waiting for them in the security center, having clearly not slept. She rushed to when he entered, checking him over with concern. You are injured, she said, noticing blood on his armor. Not mine, assured her. I was helping with casualties, I'm fine. Is captured, reported. The conspiracy is broken, the princess is safe. Closed her eyes briefly, relief washing over her face. Then she looked at. You are free to go, the threat has ended, you can return to your life now. Should have felt joy at those words. Instead, he felt something more complicated. He had spent weeks in the palace getting to know, learning about her people, understanding her dreams of building bridges between species. Leaving now felt wrong, even though freedom was what he had wanted. What happens now? He asked. With the conspiracy exposed, with proof that criminals from both species work together. Now we build, said. Her exhaustion faded as passion filled her voice. We take this evidence to both our governments. We show them that isolation helps only criminals and harms everyone else. We push for formal diplomatic relations, for cultural exchanges, for cooperation in law enforcement. We use this tragedy to create something better. That's going to take time, observed. Years, probably, agreed. But it is necessary work, important work. Made a decision then, one that surprised him even as he spoke. I could help, not as a diplomat or politician, but as someone who has lived in both worlds now, someone who understands both species a little. The Empress offered me a position before as a liaison. Maybe it's time I accept it. Stared at him. You would stay, give up your cargo routes, your independence to work between our peoples. My ship is being rebuilt anyway, said. And running cargo solo was starting to feel lonely. Maybe it's time for a new purpose. You said you wanted to build bridges. Well, I've already accidentally become one. Might as well do it intentionally. A smile spread across face, genuine and bright. My mother will be pleased, and I am glad. Working with you these past weeks has been a privilege. I would welcome your continued presence. Who had been observing quietly, spoke up. This is a good thing. Having a human working openly with the princess will send a powerful message. That cooperation is not just possible, but natural. Nodded his agreement. And having someone who understands both cultures will help prevent misunderstandings. You have proven yourself trustworthy. The Empire could use more like you. Felt the weight of what he was committing to. He was giving up the simple life he had built for something far more complicated and uncertain. But he was also choosing to be part of something meaningful, to help build the future instead of just watching it happen. 3 months later, stood on the landing platform watching his rebuilt ship undergo final tests. The Wanderer looked nothing like it had before. Technology had transformed it into something sleek and powerful. It could fly faster, farther, and safer than ever before. But it still carried his name and his ownership codes. It was still his. Joined him on the platform. Over the past months, they had become true friends. The awkwardness of their first meetings had given way to easy companionship. She teased him about human quirks. He challenged her assumptions about superiority. They worked together smoothly, planning the diplomatic initiatives that were slowly taking shape. Your first official run as liaison starts tomorrow, said. Nervous. A little, admitted. Flying between Earth and with diplomatic documents and cultural artifacts. It's a lot of responsibility. You will do well. You have already proven you can handle pressure. And the route will let you visit your sister. I believe you have much to tell her. Smiled at that. He had finally been able to send a message explaining where he had been and what had happened. Her response had been predictably enthusiastic and full of demands for details. She wanted to know everything about the palace, the princess, and especially about's near execution. He was looking forward to seeing her face when he told the full story. "Thank you," said Tu, "for everything, for protecting me, for trusting me, for giving me a purpose I never knew I wanted." "Thank you for saving my life," replied, "and for showing my people that honor and compassion exist beyond our borders. You changed our empire with one simple act of mercy. That is no small thing." "I just did what felt right." "Exactly, and that is why you are perfect for this role. You do not calculate advantage or worry about protocol. You simply do what is right. The galaxy needs more of that." Watched his ship complete its test flight and come in for landing. Soon he would be piloting it again, flying between worlds, carrying messages and goods and hope. It was not the life he had planned, but it was a good life, a meaningful life. He thought about that morning weeks ago when he had seen a disabled ship near a radiation belt. He could have ignored it, should have ignored it by all the rules of safety and efficiency. But he had investigated anyway, and that single choice had changed everything. Two civilizations were now building bridges because one cargo pilot had stopped to help a dying stranger. Trade agreements were being negotiated. Cultural exchange programs were being planned. Human and scientists were beginning to share research. All of it traced back to that moment when had chosen compassion over caution. "Ready?" asked as the ship's boarding ramp extended. "Ready," confirmed. As he walked toward the Wanderer, toward his new life as a bridge between species, felt at peace with his choices. He had saved one life and in doing so had helped two civilizations see past their prejudices. He had lost his simple cargo business but gained a purpose that mattered. He had been afraid and overwhelmed and sometimes angry at the situation he found himself in. But he had never regretted saving, not once. The ship welcomed him aboard with familiar sounds and smells despite its transformation, settled into the pilot's seat and began pre-flight checks. He could see watching from the platform. She raised her hand in farewell, returned the gesture. Then he lifted off, rising through the atmosphere toward the stars. Behind him, the palace grew smaller. Ahead of him lay Earth, his sister, and the start of regular runs between two worlds learning to trust each other. It was not an easy path. There would be setbacks and difficulties, cultural clashes and political obstacles, but it was possible now in a way it had not been before, because one human had chosen mercy, because one princess had chosen to protect that mercy rather than condemn it. Because two people from different worlds had recognized common ground in the simple truth that life was precious and worth protecting. Set his course for Earth and engaged the engines. The Wanderer leapt forward with power his old ship never had, but despite all the upgrades and improvements, the thing valued most remained unchanged. The freedom to fly, the ability to help, the chance to be part of building something better than what came before. He had saved an alien princess from death and woken to stunned faces in a royal hall. What had seemed like an ending had been a beginning. His life would never be simple again, but it would be meaningful, and for that was more than enough. Him so much but felt so necessary. The galaxy was bigger and stranger than he had ever imagined, and apparently he was now part of that strangeness whether he wanted to be or not. Ice again, saving her had been right. Whatever came next, he would face it knowing that. In return, now she was doing the same for him, standing against her own people to protect him. Whatever happened next, realized, his simple act of mercy had changed both of their lives in ways neither of them could have predicted. Gee, at all, the world went dark as he collapsed. His last thought before unconsciousness took him was simple. At least she was alive. Whatever happened next, at least he had saved her.